Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lizzy for those of you who don't know. And today it is time to do our September wrap up. Already it feels like fall where I'm at, which is just like amazing. Like it is gloomy out. It's a little windy. It's just perfect. And it's like 60 degrees. It is just amazing. With that being said, I did read some good books this month, so why don't we just get started? First book that I picked up this month was The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and this is a mystery thriller. I gave this book 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed this one. So this book was based in Ireland, and it was so atmospheric. It was so creepy, so like rugged, and like it was just so, I loved it so much. We had multiple POVs in this book, and that kept it like super interesting, and I actually did really like where the story came to. Like it made sense, and I really just thought that this was a really solid thriller, and I feel like it's kind of perfect for the fall season because it was kind of creepy in a way. So yeah, I did really enjoy this one. If I didn't say already, I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, this was the first book that we embarked on in the month of September. The next book that I read is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This book follows a character that we meet in the Cruel Prince trilogy, and so this one follows a character that we meet. And I honestly wasn't a super fan of the Cruel Prince trilogy. It just wasn't my kind of fantasy. It didn't really have enough romance for me to like it. And I went into this one hoping that I would like it more than the Cruel Prince trilogy, and I actually liked it less. I gave it a 2.5 stars. There were multiple things in this book that I just did not enjoy. For one, our main guy, he has hooves, like for feet, like he has hooves, and like I just really had trouble picturing that and then like rooting for him, or like, you know, like if you want a romance to happen, you have to like both characters, and I just could not get around his hooves. Like he had hooves for his feet, and I just felt weird the whole time, and they wouldn't let you forget it. Like his hooves were mentioned more times than I can count, and I was like, we get it, he has hooves, you're only adding fuel to the fire at this point. Like I already don't like it, and you're already just multiplying it by 100 times every time you mention it. So yeah, I didn't really like that. And not only that, but this book was just super boring. It was one of those books where like, okay, of course in a fantasy book, like you need to go on a journey, you need to discover things, and I totally understand that. And sometimes I really enjoy that plot line. But in this one, it was so boring, and like it was hard to care about it because I already was not feeling the book. So whatever journey they were on, whatever objective they were trying to do, like I was already not with it because I didn't really like the characters at all. So yeah, didn't really like it. The next book that I read this month is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score, and this book is the last book in the Knock 'Em Out trilogy. And I actually didn't enjoy Things We Left Behind and Things We Hide from the Light. I didn't really like both of those because I felt like the way Lucy Score does her romances is almost purely physical always. And I really don't like that. I feel like romances that are based purely on the physical just aren't stemmed from the best, like it just makes me feel icky. So that's why sometimes Lucy Score books don't hit to me, because they are so too much for me. But I was really excited to pick this one up, and I actually ended up liking it a lot more than the last two, so I gave this one 4 stars. I really loved Lucian and Sloane's story. I loved their backstory so much. It just reminded me of, it just felt like they had history, and that like they really did like each other, and just all of the build up to finding out what happened and Lucian's backstory and all of this stuff. I actually really enjoyed this one. I give it 4 stars. But I will say her books are insanely long for no reason at all. Like no reason at all. Should not be this long. There's always an element in specifically this trilogy, where there's a mystery element, and I can tell you right now, I don't care. I don't care about it. I skim it sometimes. I don't care. I honestly could care less about any mystery that goes on in these books. All I want to hear about is the romance. Like, I don't really care about that subplot. To be honest, I know some people like that aspect, but if I'm in the mood for a mystery, I'll pick up a mystery. If I'm in the mood for a romance, I want to pick up a romance and read strictly romance. I did like this more than the other two, but I know that some people aren't liking this, which is totally fine because we all have different tastes, and that's what's so great about books. So the next book that I actually picked up is These Violent Delights by Chloe Going, and I actually DNF'd that book at 150 pages. I have never DNF'd a book, and that was the first book that I actually DNF'd. I DNF'd it because I could tell with her writing that she does a lot of descriptive, atmospheric stuff, and I had trouble, honestly, like following her writing. Like, I didn't really enjoy the way she was writing the books. It was very descriptive. I really like books with a ton of dialogue, keeping things interesting, moving things fast, and to me, like, her books were dragging, and I just was honestly falling asleep, and I didn't really like the already established romance we got. I felt like, I don't know, I just really wanted to see something blossom instead of something that has already blossomed. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I DNF'd that book, and I will not continue with the rest of her books because I've just heard people say that that is just how her writing is, and I guess I'm just not a super fan of her writing. So yeah, we'll see if I come back to it, but I did DNF that one. I then went into some very sad books. I posted a video this month of me only reading sad books. If you are interested, I'll put it up here. But that was a very hard video for me. The first book I read in that challenge is none other than A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. Guys, this book wrecked me. The whole book is just sadness and grief and terrible, just like, the whole book is just like terrible. It is so sad. The ending is literally gut-wrenching. Like, I literally was getting stabbed multiple times reading this book. It was so heart-wrenching, but at the same time, like, obviously, with it evoking emotion out of me, I obviously saw it as such a beautiful story. So I don't know that I would recommend this book, but I'm surprised if you haven't, because this book is kind of like an older book that people have read, but I just have not picked it up purely for the reason because I know that I am a highly emotional person who gets very emotionally attached to ink on paper, and I knew it would destroy me, and it did. So if you are like me in that matter, and if you want to feel something, pick it up. But if you are in a fragile state of mind, don't. All that to say, it was a beautiful story. It was just heartbreaking. The next book that I picked up in that video is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. So this book had picked up traction, I think like a month ago, because I saw Destiny Sidwell read it and she really enjoyed it. And I read the synopsis and I was like, oh, that sounds like something I would enjoy. And I heard that it also breaks your heart. And I didn't know in what aspect, so I picked it up. You're following this girl named Ella, and Ella has a brother who is in the military. Ella has 2 kids. She is a single mom. She is alone most of the time. She is very much like, has her hands full all the time. Her brother then allows his friend to like become her pen pal to keep her company and to like build a relationship because she's kind of lonely, and then they send letters back and forth to one another, and then 2 tragic things happen immediately within 10% of this book, and you are then gut-wrenched. So then Beckett comes back and keeps Ellie company, becomes her support system. You're basically following them, like him being her support system and her like warming up to him, and then something really tragic happens to one of her children. So then you're following that storyline throughout the whole book. And then you get to the end, and I'm not even joking, it is like whiplash. I literally It is so sad what happens at the end of this book. It is so, so sad. Like, I cannot even comprehend how gut-wrenching the end of this book is. It was so gut-wrenching that I was like shaking, crying, reading the ending of this book. It was so rude on Rebecca Yarros's part to like do that. Like, I don't understand why we needed to do that, because honestly, it was so sad. I do think that you guys should pick up this book because I felt like it was just a beautiful story. So the next book that I picked up is Throttled by Lauren Asher, and this is the first book in the Dirty Air series. So I picked it up on my Kindle and I rated it 2.5. For me, this book was cringy, it was weird, it was so physical and no emotional. It was very not good in my opinion. I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite book at all. So I gave it 2.5 stars. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that one. So the next book that I picked up on my Kindle as well is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Theo. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But this is the third book that I read in my video. I really loved the concept of this book. It was so interesting. It was kind of spooky. It was really just like, I just really liked the concept of the book. I didn't cry reading it or get super attached to the characters because I felt like we didn't get enough of their baseline relationship for me to become super attached to them. So when the thing happens, when tragic stuff starts to happen, I had trouble like getting emotional about it because I wanted to see them in love first before the thing happened, if you know what I mean. But I still really did like that one. I gave it a 3 stars. It was still a super cute book and I highly recommend it because I thought it was a very unique take on a paranormal romance. I actually did enjoy it. The next book that I picked up is the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez, and this is the second book in the Interconnected Standalone series. This follows The Friend Zone by her, and this was Sloane's story, and I was so excited to pick up this book and read about Sloane's story because Sloane's backstory is so heartbreaking and so sad. So I was so excited to hear about what her story was gonna be, and I gave this one a 4.25 stars. I did really, really enjoy this one. The one thing I didn't love was the guy in this book. I feel like Sloane deserved someone who is more grounded and more normal and not a superstar, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Sloane needed someone who could like keep her guarded, keep her grounded, like someone who is just a constant in her life and someone that she needed. And I felt like Jason was not that for her. So I didn't really love the dynamic of him being a superstar and her being like a grieving widow and him basically forcing her to be on the road with her for like 14 months. Like, I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite dynamic. He wasn't my favorite, but I still love Sloane because her story is just so incredible. I loved hearing her heal. I loved like her backstory is just so powerful, and I just really love Abby Jimenez's writing. She just really can write a book. Like, no matter what, like, she'll always write something that is different than any other book I've ever read. She can really create really incredible characters, like very well-rounded. So yeah, I love Abby Jimenez's writing, and I will read the last one probably next month, which is, I forget the name of it, but I did really enjoy this one. So the next book that I picked up on my Kindle as well is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent, and I actually read Serpent and the Wings of Night, that trilogy, a couple months ago, and I've been wanting to start her other trilogy. I feel like I really liked this book. Like, it took me a while to read it because it felt like a book that I just needed to slowly read. Like, it was not a book that I could binge because it was definitely a slow burner type of fantasy where, like, you're getting a lot of development, you're getting a lot of worlds building, a lot of this, and I wanted to read a little slower because I didn't want to miss anything. I ended up giving it a 4 stars, so I did enjoy it. And I did really like the ending, so I do want to pick up the next one. But it was definitely like a very slow book, you know? Then I started the pinnacle of this month, the pinnacle books of this month, The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. These books have been doing their rounds, honestly, everywhere. Basically, this book is like a young adult Criminal Minds type of thing. And I remember like hearing that synopsis and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. So basically you're following these 4 teenagers who are in a program in the FBI called The Naturals. And The Naturals are basically these teenagers have like gifts that they were born with. One of them is a profiler. Profiler is someone who can like decipher people's backstory, like can read body language and what's going on in their head. And then we have a lie detector, and then we have someone who's really good at statistics, and then we have someone who's really good at reading facial features. So you're basically following these 4 teenagers in that program called The Naturals, and they basically solve cold cases, and you're basically discovering a case from one of the naturals named Cassie, and it kind of becomes like the main case throughout all 4 of these books, and they all like tie in at one point. So this was the first one. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars. And then after I read The Naturals, I instantly went into Killer Instinct, which is the second one. I gave this one a 4.25 stars. I loved this one because it was just like getting more interesting. You're just learning more about the case, learning more about the characters and their backstory, and it was just like so good. After I finished Killer Instinct, I then finished Collided, which is the second book in the Dirty Air series, and I gave it a 2 stars. I didn't like it anymore. I actually liked it less. Like, it was not good. Was not my favorite. That's totally fine. But, yeah, I read Collided, didn't like it. Same reasons as before, but honestly worse in this one. The guy in this book was so yuck. So yeah, not my favorite. After I read Collided, I then instantly went into All In, which is the 3rd book in the Naturals series, and this one was so good. I gave it a 4.5 because I love our character Sloane in this book. She's like my absolute favorite because she's just so sweet and she's so innocent, and she just like, it's just so, I just love her character, and you just learn so much about her in this book. And like, this one is the one where it ramps up. Like, this is when they start really getting into it, and you start to learn a lot, and you learn something that is like so insane, and it kind of turns these mysteries into something so much bigger. And it's just crazy. The turns that this series takes is like insane. You're like, okay, they're solving cold cases, but no, it's like literally nuts. What they actually end up learning is crazy. I went into Protecting What's Mine by Lucy Score, and this is the 3rd and last installment in the Pretend You're Mine trilogy, and I really just wanted to get this one done because I wanted to get straight into Bad Blood, but I gave myself a little break because I knew if I read all of them in one, I would just get tired of them, and I wanted to like miss them and go back to them because that's when you know that you are really enjoying a series. So I went and I picked up this one, and this one is a nurse firefighter dynamic, and I thought that was really interesting. But I don't know what it is with Lucy Score. She develops the romance way too quick for me. I'm saying like within 100 pages, like they already kiss. And I'm like, do we see the length of this book? It's at least 450 pages and you're already developing a romance. Like, that's what I need all of this for. And then they can kiss in this one. Why are you making, like, I just don't really understand why in every book I read from her, she just makes romance happen like this, like so quickly. And it just like honestly ruins the whole book for me because like you're already a developed romance and it's just like, I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my super favorite. But then I went right into the last book, Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and oh my gosh. This one was crazy. This one is where it gets real. It is where everything wraps up. I have chills talking about this book because it is so crazy. The amount of things that you uncover in this one and the amount of things that happen to like one of our characters, it is like, it's honestly wild to me. Like, this one was so good. I gave it a 5 stars. Like, I loved it so much. I just loved how it was wrapped up and how everything concluded, and it was so different than any other like book that I've ever read because the mystery in this one, in these books, is so different than anything I'd ever read. Like, it is not your typical mystery thriller. It's not your typical just like murder mystery. It's so much more. It's so crazy. The route that they take in this one is nuts. So I literally loved it so much. Also in this book, you are included the novella, which is I think like, it's like 125 pages long, called 12. And that one, you're basically just following them, doing another little case, and you're just getting more of them, which I love because the characters are so good in this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It was just a really nice, another take on our characters that we felt deeply in love with in this series. It was just so cute. If you have not yet picked up The Naturals, I realize that it's not in order, but if you have not yet picked up The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, you have to. It's so good. Like, it's so good. It reads so easily. It's so fast-paced. It's so quick. Took me 1 to 2 days reading each of them because they're just so readable, so quick, and you just want to know what happens. So I highly, highly, highly recommend reading this series if you guys haven't done so yet. So yes, guys, that is the end of my September reading wrap up. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you had some good recs, and if you read any of the books that I have read this month, please share your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond and we can just talk about books, which is just my favorite thing ever. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, do all those things that you guys know how to do, and I will hopefully see you in my next YouTube video. Bye, guys.